Imagine you're in the desert and you're crawling. You're crawling on your hands and knees. And your throat, it's dry and tight. And your stomach is in knots because you're so hungry. And your head is actually, your head sort of, it's hanging down. You've been at this a while. And it's a dark night of the soul. And then, suddenly, there's a spark. A spark right in front of you, and it stops you. It stops you from this crawl. This spark is hope. This spark reminds us that there are things in this life worth living for. This spark right in front of you reminds you that there are things in this life that are not only worth living for, but that are worth fighting for. It reminds that you have value. The spark reminds you that you are valuable. Have you seen these sparks? Have you? It is our duty in this life to not just see them and recognize them, but give thanks for them. Because that spark, that is the divine spark, that is hope. And it is our first step. It is our beginning back into what I call the hope cycle. And the hope cycle, my friends, it's our journey back to love. It's our journey back to love. Last service, you might recall that I talked about this spark, I talked about this beginning, and I talked a lot about choice. And I said that we have choice. We have choice. We can say yes to life, yes to love, yes to God. And so tonight, we recall that and remember that we just took that first step last time. It was just one step. But now I ask you, perhaps if you took that one step, maybe you'd be willing to go a little further. Just another step. So let's go back now. Imagine, I want you to go back, you're in the desert. And from that crawling position, on your hands and knees, as you have just witnessed the spark, now your head, it just lifts, just a little bit. And that lift is what I would say curiosity. But not just any curiosity, it's holy curiosity. It's where not only do we remember, yes, okay, there are things worth living for, there are things worth fighting for, there are things that I believe in, but there is a moment where as I'm lifting, I go, is it true? Is it true? Is it? That is the holy curiosity. This is why hope matters, because it brings us to a whole nother level. And it is, yes, our journey back to love. I'm going to tell you a story about Rip Van Winkle. So Rip, we're going to call him Rip for tonight, okay? So Rip had a wife, and he lived in this village, and Rip's wife really was on one. She was really mad at him because Rip lived a life of laziness, a life of idleness. So one day Rip goes, I'm just done with the nagging. I am out. I am going to go to the mountains. And thereupon Rip decides to have this elixir. He drinks it, and he sleeps for a really long time. After many years, 20 years to be exact, as the story goes, Rip wakes up. And whoa, he has a beard down to his feet. This is curious. And he walks back down the Catskill Mountains, and he goes back to his village, and he finds out that his wife has died. And his children are grown. And everything's different. Everything has changed. He's presented with choice. He's presented with a choice. He could do his life over this time. He doesn't have to live a life of laziness or idleness. But what happens? Rip goes into the same thing, and he ends up resuming his life like he did before. Now let's talk about someone else. I'm going to tell you about St. Anthony. If you've never read the account of St. Anthony by Athanasius, it's really mystical. And so how this one goes, Anthony was about 18, his parents died. He was in Egypt. And Anthony was very curious about the contemplative life, specifically Christian monasticism. So he took to going to the desert. And he would go into the desert for very long periods of time. And he would go, and then he would come back. But he kept getting called for longer periods. And at one point, he stayed. And it is said that there were people, every 6 months or so, would come and bring him some bread. And there was this little lot where they would put the bread, and they would hear Anthony in his dwelling. And they would hear the most crazy sounds. And he was fighting the devil. He was being tempted by the devil. He was going through all the machinations of this spiritual initiation, right? And so after a while, they just stopped coming. But Anthony stayed. And 20 years goes by, 20 years. And eventually he thinks, I'm going to emerge. I'm going to leave this place. So everybody thinks, wow, his skin is probably going to be sagging. He's going to probably be very decrepit and old. And would you believe that when he emerges, he's radiant. He's radiant. His skin is glowing. You can tell that he is enlightened. He has reached a place of enlightenment. The difference, do you see? The difference between our dear friend Rip and Anthony is that Anthony respected, there was a holy curiosity that called him. And he went with it. His head lifted up, so to speak, and he went into this place of holy curiosity. And he wrestled with it. Now let me talk to you for a moment about curiosity, just in a basic way. Curiosity's definition is to be, let me get this right. Pardon me. Curiosity is inquisitiveness and the desire to learn and know. The desire to learn and know. Basically put, okay? Moreover, according to, let me get his name correct, Donald Latumahina, try to say that quickly. Well, Donald Latumahina, who blogged about curiosity, here's some reasons why curiosity is really important. It makes your mind active, so it takes you from sort of a passive state to a more active state. Number two, it makes your mind observant of new ideas. Okay? So when you're curious about something, your mind expects and anticipates new ideas. Pardon me. 3, it opens up new worlds and possibilities. So by being curious, you'll be able to see new worlds and possibilities which might have not been visible to you previous. And number 4, and this is one of my favorites, because I like saying this word, it brings excitement. And it brings an excitement back to your life where you might not have had it. This is what Einstein said about curiosity, and many of you might know this quote. The important thing is to not stop questioning. Never lose a holy curiosity. Never lose a holy curiosity. These are radical times that we are living in. One could say that It could feel at times that we are living in the desert, that we are in our own desert experience. Maybe not just as individuals, but as a people, yes? And so some of you may have been feeling like you've been crawling on your hands and knees. And yes, there are sparks, but maybe, in fact, you're having a hard time recognizing that in this moment. And so this is where I'm really going to invite you now to come into a place of holy curiosity, much like Anthony, and just really engage. And so how do you do that? How do you do that? There are a few things that I have, in my own preparation for this talk, wrestled with and I chewed on. And the first thing was this. You know how I always talk to you about remembering who you are? I'm constantly really hitting this. Remember who you are. You are made in the image of God. You are a precious child of God. And then sometimes I say it to make it a little more palatable for folks that might not be okay with the big G word. I say you're made in pure love. Mm-hmm. It's all the same. How do you have this holy curiosity? How do you get there? Remember who you are first, friends. Remember who you are. Really connect with that place inside yourself where you just know, I am made in the image of God. I am made in pure love. Because here's why. I want you to begin to become open and radically receptive more than you ever have. Become open and more radically receptive more than you ever have. And it's easier to be radically receptive when we have a certainty and a resolve about who we are. We don't feel as unsafe or threatened because we know who we are. So we're able to go, let me try that. Let me be open and let me be radically receptive to new ideas, new thoughts, new paradigms, new worldviews. Do you see this? Mm-hmm. So I know I'm speaking to all of you right now, and we're all probably very radically receptive. So I'm preaching to the choir here. Mm-hmm. However, there are people that it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us need this reminder. Mm-hmm. You know, we need this reminder to really have that assuredness of who, yes, I am. We are. We are made in the image of God. And to come back to that place, because that is what will lead us to the holy curiosity that is our birthright. And it's almost like I see a hand that's beckoning us and say, be radically receptive. Try on these new ideas, these new paradigms. Try it on. It's okay. If it's too scary, remember, you already know who you are. Mm-hmm. So it's all right. You're solid. You're golden, like I say. So that's the first thing. Be radically receptive, and in that radical reception, just continue to know who you are. Know that you're made in pure love. Just know that. And then another way, so that's one way. And then another way, a second thing is to be radical in your questioning. And I would say it more so, be uncomfortable. Be willing to get uncomfortable. It's okay. It's okay. I have spent a lot of time in 12-step. So one of the things that I absolutely loved about 12-step was the fourth step in the program. And the fourth step was where you would take an inventory of resentments and fears and other things, and you would wrestle, and you would, in a way, there was this implicit invitation to be curious. And so with this holy curiosity, you would have to look at things, grievances, things that maybe people had done that were awful. You know, you have a resentment, something terrible, maybe someone abused you, maybe someone, this, that, the other, you're a victim in some way, And you would have to write this down, and then you'd have to get curious and go, why would this person do this? It changed my life. I was really resistant when I first began that process, and then I got the magic of it, and then I wouldn't stop doing them. I loved it. I would just write, I would write out and go, yeah, why? Help me understand. Very St. Francis prayer, help me understand rather than be understood. But see, I already had that sense imbued. I already had a very strong sense of self. So I was able to do that. Again, remember that first part, how I'm always saying, remember who you are, remember who you are. Because you're not abandoning your truth. No, you're just simply trying something else on and taking a step into something perhaps uncomfortable. But the uncomfortability, I believe, is necessary. It's almost like seeing rubble. Things are getting loosened. Maybe even fire. Something is getting burned away that doesn't need to be there. So you have this radical receptivity, and then you have this moment where you go, okay, I'm gonna be willing to get maybe a little uncomfortable, okay. And then there's this. And this is another way, the third way. It is a privilege to be on this planet. We are breathing in and out. We are living in these times I have never seen. I'm not that old, but I'm not that young. And we are living in these wild, extraordinary times of change. Stirring. And we're here. We are breathing in and out. We're alive. What a gift this is. So implicit in this invitation of the spark and then the lifting and the holy curiosity is this, holy cow, is this gratitude. We're alive. My friends, we're alive. Can you believe it? I mean, it's so almost like sophomoric. You think, well, it's so simple. Yeah, we're alive. Yes, we're alive. We get to come here on Wednesdays. We get to connect. We get to sit with Reverend April and affirm. We get to be heard. We get to be seen. We get to be reminded that we matter. And make no mistake about it, this is happening all over. So maybe we don't see it on Facebook or on the news or whatever. Or I live on Telegraph, and Telegraph can be like kind of chaotic, for me. But there's so much going on, so much juiciness, so much love, so much wonderfulness. There's so many people like how Anthony just really engaged, and he was just in this place of curiosity. There's so many people that are doing that, doing just that. So make no mistake. Let us make no mistake about it. So we have this radical reception, this radical receptivity, and then this other piece of being willing to go into uncomfortable places, and then a reminder of gratitude. Just go, wow, I'm alive. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. This is the second stage of the HopeCycle. It is a life journey. It is a spiritual journey. It is a spiritual initiation. And it starts sometimes in those dark nights of the soul. You've had them, you know, you might be alone. You might be sitting where you live. No one's up. And you're just feeling like that scene. You know, picture when I said imagine, you're crawling through the desert. And you're like, I can't go on anymore. And wow. There's a spark. You have to say yes to the spark, and tonight I'm begging you, I'm asking you, I'm saying to all of us, lift your head. Lift your head in holy curiosity. And don't stop. Don't stop. This is my prayer, this is my blessing to each of you from my heart. Amen.
Amen.